So, Wriothesley is about to get his rerun, and I figured I'd make a video on just whether he's good or not. And it's a very hard question to ask because when I look at Wriothesley now, I mean, his team is a lot better than what it was, right? We don't have to use 400% energy recharge Shangling. We don't need Fiorino on the team, and Ben and Mavuikas, they'll recover all their energy, and we have Shilonen now. Overall, his team feels better. And it seems like it just functions better overall. And I compare characters at their C1 level, right? I do. So I'm comparing Wriothesley with his C1 because it's C1 or R1. And Wriothesley's C1 is a lot better and way more worth it than a lot of other characters. So you get Wriothesley's C1, right? So you have his C1. This video is more about, is he good at all at C1, right? And I have to say, yeah. I did like him all throughout Fontaine with his C1, and I do think that his C3, while it's a damage increase, I don't think it's enough of a damage increase to be like, oh, your opinion, like my opinion, is invalid, right? However, he does have a weapon, right? And that is the main issue, right? This weapon, I mean, unless you have a Lost Prayer of Sacred Winds, there's not really an easy comparison. Because if I use the Widzith, then I have to overcap on my crit rate, and then that's not really a build because my build is less cohesive. Right now, I have a top 1% Wriothesley just because of the way the cards played out. I got really lucky with the artifacts that worked with him. So overall, I love my Wriothesley, and he works very well for me. And overall, I love this dude, but I can't say that he's very good. I can only say that he's good. Right, at the C1 level. And the reason for this being is because now with Mavuikas in the game, we've raised the gap as to what is good, and I'm assuming either Ian-san or Varisa or whatever are gonna be a DPS, or maybe there's a support, like maybe one of them is support, one of them is a DPS, and they work great together. I have no idea. However, I do know that we're not gonna stop and make more Wriothesley characters, right? Wriothesley is a character that was a fumble on release, wasn't really, like, oh my god, most insane, character ever. He was okay. And now I could say he's good because now he has Mavuikas as a teammate. But, there's a lot of characters that have Mavuikas as a teammate. And there's a lot of characters who are just going to outright be better than Wriothesley at C0 nowadays. So, while he's good, and I absolutely do think that if anybody were to summon on him, I would implore you to, because, I mean, the guy has only gotten his rerun until now. I can't deny people to summon for this character when he barely got a rerun. I can't. There's just no way I can. And that'll be a should you summon video. But right now, I'm just talking like, is this guy good? I would say yes, but don't expect him to be nearly the top tier characters. I think he's good. I think he's been effective. I've used him, and every time, I've never been disappointed with Wriothesley. However, I do have his weapon, and I do constantly use him with his weapon. So, C1, R1, like, it's the C3, not that huge. Weapon, a little more huge. And for the longest time, I did not have the crazy supports with Wriothesley, right? I didn't have, C2 Shield, and I didn't have my C2 Mavuikas to help this guy out and do his damage. But I want you guys to understand that. I just want you guys to understand that. Because, I've used this guy since his launch. So, when people are like, oh, well, you only like him because you have your C2 Shield, and you only like him because you have your C2 Mavuikas. No. Now we can talk about sort of the level that he's at. I think he's better than Chaska. I think he has better sort of control over what he does. He has better use cases, and especially now with Mavuikas, right? With Mavuikas can go ahead and she can feed off of his attacks, being cryo, and she can go ahead and melt her burst, which can really, really help out in terms of damage if you really are struggling there. I think he's above Chaska, but I think the second character you compare him to is Chloride, and I don't know if I could say that. Now, to preface this, I've never been able to use Chloride with C6 Chevy. That's another thing. I don't have that. So, C6 Chevy-less Chloride compared to a C1 Wriothesley, I would probably have to give it to Chloride. That is sort of the level of character that you're looking at when you're looking at Wriothesley. And I don't think that, like Chloride, I want to see her with C6 Chevy. I think she has the potential. I think she'll be good. However, Wriothesley, I've seen him. my C3 is like probably one of the better characters on my account, and I love him, but I don't think I could say that at just purely C1 with like a 4-star weapon that this guy is going to be competitive against Chloride. I do have a pretty inflated Wriothesley, right? His damage numbers are just inflated for me, but from my memory of using this guy since, Free Arena and Shangling release, I feel like he just wasn't there, and he is more heavily single target. I think this character does more single target damage than Chloride, but Chloride, when it comes to AoE, she's like maybe not far better, but she's better. I've never had huge issues with Wriothesley against AoE, but Chloride can absolutely, take on that role and, settle with AoE, and that's what you should look for in a overall DPS character fashion, right? Wriothesley, he's good in he's decent in AoE, right? I wouldn't say he's bad. Definitely my C3 helps out a lot with his AoE, especially with my C2 Mavuika, right? But that, like I said, I used it without C2 Mavuika. But so right now, Mavuika can help with his AoE, but Mavuika is also on Chloride's best team. So it's a little, you can't just have it be like, oh, well, Mavuika is a little better on, I would say, Wriothesley's team, mainly because he's able to apply Cryo Orb. So it's tough to give a rating, but I think these are the level of character that I would compare them with. I really don't see Chloride being worse than him, because she is overall around, she's able to deal with multiple situations on the same sort of level as she's always able to deal with them. Whereas Wriothesley is going to be excelling in single target, and not he's not going to be bad in AoE. I think he's still effective, right, in AoE, but he's not going to be, Chloride, who's getting 40-second single target, 40-second, AoE. He's more like, 20-second single target, a minute AoE. I'm throwing out random numbers. I'm going to be honest. I'm not doing a specific chamber here. That's just sort of giving you a figure of what to expect with this kind of character. Because he, in terms of single target, he's still very strong. I would say he's probably up there in terms of single target. If you count his C1 and you look at him, because, I don't know. I'm pretty sure the Wriothesley is his best weapon. I have not been able to use it with him effectively. But let's go ahead and let's build him a sort of weaker team than what he already has accessible to him, because I have C2 Mavuika and C2 Shieldon, so it's a little tough for me to judge a character based on using those two characters in their team, right? So that is what we're going to do. We're going to use C1 Fiorina. It is C1 Fiorina, but C1 Fiorina is a very popular constellation to get, if I'm being entirely honest. So let's go ahead and let's just use, this as what we want. Okay, this should be very easy for us to do, where we should be able to go ahead and we should be able to see some damage numbers from Wriothesley. He is on the Wriothesley, so let's go ahead. I want to see some damage numbers. I don't know exactly how the Wriothesley works with Wriothesley, because it says when you take the field. I don't know if you have to be going from switched out to, not switched out, but 175,000, I think there. Not really. Yeah, we're not getting the melts, which is weird. Normally this team gets the melts. Hold on. All right, let me restart. Once again, 30 seconds is the cooldown for Wriothesley, so there's a good chance that we just don't even get a buff from Wriothesley, which theoretically that's kind of the better option, because I'd rather see that. I don't know. I don't know how Wriothesley works, if I'm being entirely honest. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so 212,000, not bad. And yeah, we saw that there. So I'm trying to see, dude, what? Yeah, I don't think we have a buff from Wriothesley right now. So 404. But yeah, that's a little weird. We weren't getting the best number, but we saw 200,000, 212,000. I assuming Wriothesley didn't give him a buff or anything. So that's more in line with what I use with my Wriothesley, and he's able to do very well. And that's a worser team for him, because generally he'd have an extra 40% damage bonus because of Mavuika, right? Mavuika would have done extra damage for him, and then Shieldon would have also been buffing him. So overall, I do think that, Wriothesley, he's got a shot. He's not, a loser like a lot of people labeled him as. I do feel like a lot of people really went into he's a loser. Even at C0, I don't think he's necessarily a loser. I think he's good, but he's just not there, right? He's not it's not like you're going to have him be effective all the time, every time. I think, I think he's a very effective DPS. I think he's easily able to clear all the content. You know, it's not a Chaska situation where, you know, oh, he didn't clear the content within a minute and 30. I think even with a C0 Wriothesley, with the team that he has access to, with Mavuikas, with Bennett, with Shilonen, I think even with C0, you still should be able to get through the content that is put in front of you, basically. I don't think we're going to have that sort of issue. I do think Wriothesley definitely was very critically, like, harsh, you know, very much so people didn't like him. But worst case scenario, Mavuikas is on his team now. Overall, I'd say he's good, right? Same way I would do Chaska. Like, he's good, right? I think Chaska is good, but like I don't think, you know, anything special of her, right? I would say Wriothesley better than Chaska, but I think they are sort of like Wriothesley is ahead of her, and it's very clearly that he's ahead of her. But I don't think that it's like there are two separate tiers. I don't think that is how much of a clear difference those two characters are. So Wriothesley, you know, you could take this as a, oh, you have C3 R1, whatever. Your opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't, you know, you've been using this character forever. Whatever. If you really want to take it like that, go ahead and take it like that. I don't care. But hey, I've been happy with my Wriothesley for as long as I've had him. I didn't even really think of getting the C2 R1. I got him C1 R1 because I liked his, I was like, oh, I'm going to get his weapon and I'm going to get his C1, and that's going to be a really strong combination, which it was. I do think that if you have a C1 and his weapon, then there is no way that you are calling Wriothesley trash, right? There's like no way, because like unless you are legitimately comparing him to Mavuikas, which is just dumb, because like you compare literally anybody to Mavuikas and it starts looking like, oh wow, this character's trash. You know, that's sort of how it goes. It's why I don't try and compare. Like with Arlecchino and Mavuikas, it was direct competition because they share almost all the same teammates, right? Whereas Wriothesley, he's not really in competition with Mavuikas because Mavuikas is on his team, right? And I don't think anybody's gonna sit here and say like, oh, well, actually Mavuikas better. You know, it's just Mavuikas better. No. I think it's very clear. Like Wriothesley, he's good, but I don't think like he's not Yoimiya. That's something we can take away, and we could be like, that's an interesting question. Is Ito better than Wriothesley at this point? Because Ito has access to just the Furina, Shilonen, and Mavuikas combo, which is really strong. Probably not. Yeah, no, definitely not. Wriothesley's able to put up like 250,000 at C0, I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, I'm going to take a break real quick. I'm going to mimic this team, and I'm going to give you guys the damage numbers for his charge attack, and I'm going to use the Wriothesley. Okay, so really free to play sort of idea here. So let's go ahead and look at my build before I say the damage numbers. So this is the build that I ended up with. I changed my stats around here. So he's going to get up to like a 90% crit rate ratio here, and then 200% very good. It's one of the benefits of Wriothesley. He does have very good crit rates. And overall, these are the artifacts that I put on him. I think overall it's okay. I don't think it's great, but hey, it's with the Wriothesley. It's what I need. So a C1 Wriothesley would be able to go from 193,000 damage to 100 or 215,000 damage on his charge attack, and that's just his charge attack. There are other hits that he does that are beneficial. Now, this is without Shilonen's weapon. This is without Mavuikas doing any of her shenanigans with C2. This is just the kind of damage that Wriothesley would be able to do had he been given his C1, which is where I like to compare characters. Now, what if we added Shilonen's weapon, because it is a very good weapon. A lot of people wanted to get it and may get it when she reruns, right? It goes from 202,000 to 227,000. So it's a little bit of a jump, but still we can see that Wriothesley is doing, you know, a 200,000 charge attack at C1, which let me go ahead and check his build. I'm just going to redo my build. I'll show you guys what my C3R1 can do, and you can see my kind of damage because that's what I do. I am tempted to throw a couple summons at him, but I do know that we have new characters coming, right? His C6 is really strong. Like, when you get him C6, he's like crazy strong, but you know, that's not you know, that's not great. Okay, let's go ahead. And also, Mavuikas can melt on that. I know I've mentioned it, but I haven't like explicitly said. Yeah, oh, hello, attack. All right, so we can do that. Oh, we didn't crit with my high crit rate. I'm not even gonna mention it, right? We're not, nope, chat, we're not mentioning it. All right, so you can see he's doing a couple of hits there. We kind of fumbled there because we were kind of missing and stuff. I haven't played him in a bit. We can redo this. let's go ahead and redo this real quick so we can see the kind of damage that we're able to do. I'm going to actually do this and then do this and this and this. Okay. Boom. Okay. And we can see, okay, 320. And then we'll have this and boom, 320. And let's see. So, okay, we didn't crit again. Are you serious? Yeah, no, I'm not even gonna. Sure, whatever. We didn't crit. Okay. You want to see my build, chat? Do we need to see my build? Just to refresh our minds that I have like a 89% crit rate. Just to refresh the minds of the people that may be in the back of the room. So yeah, that is the kind of damage that you'd be doing. You just do 200,000, and then you'd be able to do a third one, and that'd be around, you know, 100 or not 400,000, probably like 550,000 just from charge attacks. He's doing attacks in the middle of that. So overall, his DPS at C1 should be, or not DPS, but you know, damage per rotation, probably 800,000 to 900,000, I would say, is at C1, right? And then, you know, at my level, he's doing like, you know, 1 million plus easily. But yeah. And that is just with, you know, Widzith R5, right? And, you know, we can talk about, you know, Shilon's weapon if you don't want to include it, if you want to include it, whatever. But, like, he's not a 0. I want people to understand this. He's not a 0. And if we go ahead, I'll take off the melt reaction. I mean, his reaction, I mean, he does do melts on other hits, right? Typically, it's the first hit and the 5th hit, right? Generally, do stay. Let's see what the kind of buff we get. It is a pretty big buff for C3, yeah. Just on paper, looking at it. Seems like a big buff. Might not actually be in total, but so yeah, that's all I gotta say with Wriothesley. I think he's good. I don't think that he's a top tier DPS. I really don't think that he's even close to being a top tier DPS, but I think he's good, and you know, that's really where he falls in. I don't think it's not Joymia level, it's not Gandu. He is very much so the best cryo DPS in the game right now. We do have Skirt coming up, so that's probably going to change unless she's a support, which would be crazy. But yeah, right now, he's the best cryo DPS in the game because Ayaka is trash and I hate Ganyu. And overall, yeah, that's kind of the only other two, I'm pretty sure. Right, yeah. People do try and downplay him and act like Ayaka is better than him, which is not the case. It's just not the case. Make sure that's not the case, chat. You understand this? Not the case. So I think he's good at best, and that's really where he stands. I think, you know, Chloride is probably in that very good tier, if I had to be honest. Like, probably the bottom of the very good. Like I said, I haven't used C6 Chevy. I'm purely just going off of what other people, you know, mention and what I've seen in gameplay videos. Literally just all I'm doing. I think he's somewhere between Chaska and Chloride, right? I am not as high on Chloride as some people. Just so you guys know, some people really do like Chloride and think that she's like top 5. I do not think that. Just so we're clear, and I'm not like, oh, I don't think I'm comparing, you know, Wriothesley to a top 5 DPS. If I'm being entirely honest, let's be real. Overall, yeah, I like Wriothesley. I think he's going to be still effective because he has Mavuikas now, who is able to do a lot of damage on his team. I didn't show that. I guess I could. I could show the sort of weird way that you can make Mavuikas melt on this team. It's a weird way, but it's not at all a weird way if you really think about it. So basically, you go in and we gotta recover our energy. Well, I say it's a weird way. It really isn't like any weird way. It is legitimately just as simple as we're gonna do this. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna do this. We're gonna go ahead, do this, and we're gonna grab this. Okay. All right. Thank you. Nope. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. There. Oh. Switch wrong. Okay. Boom. Boom. Wow. 1 million damage, chat. All right. Yeah. I hate this so much. I hate doing showcases. I'm never doing another one again. I say that now, but tomorrow I will be doing another one. Okay. Overall, yeah. So, just wanted to mention, like, that's C2 Mavuikas, by the way. So, don't look at that number and be like, oh, wow, Mavuikas is going to add 1 million damage raw to his stuff. That rotation was all over the place. I don't even know what the proper number was. I was just showing you guys that she can melt like that. If you got something out of that, hopefully you did. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you did enjoy. If you really enjoyed, feel free to become a member. $5 a month, you get videos like 8 hours early. Thank you guys for watching. Goodbye.